Ready for a deep dive into something we could all use a little more of in our lives. I'm talking about peace,
Yeah,
finding those pockets of peace
absolutely.
in this crazy world.
Yeah.
We're going to be cracking open a talk by Bishop Budge from the latest General Conference.
Okay.
It's called Seek Him with All Your Heart.
I like it.
And now, before you think this is just some, religious thing that doesn't apply to you,
Yeah.
it's really about this universal need we all have to just hit pause for a second and reconnect with what matters.
It's that feeling so many of us have where,
Yeah.
like you said, we're going, and you almost feel like your spirit is malnourished,
Right.
even though you're busy doing all these things.
It's like we're all caught in this busy trap,
Yeah.
which, by the way, kind of hits differently when you learn the Japanese word for busy is isogashi,
Oh, wow.
which literally means heart spirit plus death.
Mm.
Talk about a reality check, right?
Yeah, that's powerful. That really puts it into perspective.
So to really drive home this whole need for stillness,
Right.
Bishop Budge uses this fascinating example from the book of Isaiah.
Okay.
It talks about finding strength in stillness.
Mm.
And it contrasts that with, like, the frenzy of fleeing on horseback.
Oh, wow.
And I just love how something written centuries ago can still be so relevant today.
For sure. Yeah, and it actually connects perfectly to what we've been hearing from leaders today about this,
Listen.
about making quiet time a priority.
Oh,
Not just an afterthought,
Yeah.
like it's something sacred.
Right.
Because you think about it, our external world is often a whirlwind, right?
Hold on, 100%.
But it's often that internal state,
Mhm.
our minds racing a million miles a minute,
Yeah.
that really prevents us from connecting with something deeper.
So it's not just about, like, being physically still.
Yeah,
It goes beyond that.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
deeper than that.
Yeah.
There's this quote by Elder Bednar that really stuck with me, where he said, "Truly, being still is not passive at all. It's about making an active choice to focus on something beyond ourselves.
Okay.
And that takes a certain effort."
So how do we actually do that?
Right.
Like, our brains are practically wired for busy these days.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Tell me more about this concept of mui
Okay.
that comes up in the talk.
Yes.
What is that?
So mui is another Japanese word
Okay.
that literally means nothing plus to do.
Nothing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's easy to misunderstand it as, just being inactive.
Yeah, like just sitting there doing nothing.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But there's this great anecdote in the talk about a calligrapher,
Okay.
Sister Wada,
Okay.
and Bishop Budge asks her to write mui,
Hmm.
thinking it's going to be a very simple task.
I'm guessing it wasn't as straightforward as he expected.
Not at all.
Okay.
She hesitates.
Hmm.
You see, for Sister Wada, calligraphy wasn't just about putting brush to paper. Writing mui required deep reflection
Wow.
and intention before making a single mark.
Oh, wow. So it's like that with connecting with the divine, too.
Look, exactly.
It's just something you check off the list.
Right.
It's more than that.
It requires that intentionality.
Yes.
And the talk even talks about how much God values that effort, that trying.
That's not one-sided.
Right. No, not at all.
We can't expect to have this deep connection with God if we're not putting in any effort ourselves.
And it made me think of that scripture comparing God to a mother hen gathering her chick.
Oh, yeah.
He wants to gather us,
Yeah.
but we have to choose to return to him with purpose.
So how do we actually do that? Practically.
Yeah,
The talk mentions things like prayer,
right.
scripture study, the sacraments, Sabbath day observance, temple worship.
All these things we can do.
But how do we take those from just checking boxes
Yeah.
to that mu-infused approach we were talking about?
Right, because it's easy to go through the motions.
Yes.
So let's unpack those. Because I think it's easy, like you said, to fall into that trap of just going through the motions.
For sure.
So first, prayer, right?
Okay.
It's easy to rattle off a wish list.
Oh, yeah?
But what if we spent less time talking and more time just being with God, expressing gratitude, love from the heart?
So you're saying even something like scripture study, we could approach that differently
Yeah.
by changing our mindset.
Instead of speed reading,
Yeah.
what if we savored the words
Like that.
and let them nourish our souls?
Okay.
Like you're having a delicious meal and you're not just scarfing it down.
Right.
And then there's the sacrament.
Okay.
It's so easy to let our minds wander during the sacrament.
It's true.
But what if we use that time to really ponder Christ's atonement?
It's about bringing reverence
Yeah.
and reflection to something that can easily just become so routine.
Absolutely.
And speaking of reflection, I mean, the Sabbath is practically synonymous with this whole non-doing idea.
Right.
Like, that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Right.
The Hebrew word for Sabbath literally means rest. It's about disconnecting from the world and reconnecting with that spiritual core.
Love it.
And then there's the temple.
Yeah.
You know, going to the temple, being in the celestial room, it's about being truly present in the moment, allowing for quiet contemplation.
So it's about approaching all of these things with the same mindfulness and intention
Right.
that Sister Wada brought to her calligraphy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Taking these things that maybe we put on our to-do list
Yeah.
and instead making them opportunities to truly connect with the divine.
You know what's so fascinating?
What's that?
Is that even Jesus, I mean, this is Jesus we're talking about,
Yeah.
the epitome of strength and divinity.
Yeah.
Even he felt the need to step away from the demands of his ministry and just find stillness.
Yeah.
It's humbling, to say the least.
It really is. It makes you think, right?
It really does.
If Jesus needed that, how much more do we?
Exact.
His talk mentions how often Jesus would slip away to pray in solitude. The wilderness, the Garden of Gethsemane.
Right.
It drives home the point that
Yeah.
stillness isn't a luxury.
It's not like,
It's vital.
yeah, it's not an extra.
Right?
It's fundamental to our well-being.
It is.
But here's what gets me. It's not just about, like,
Yeah.
you know, being more spiritual or whatever.
Right.
This stillness thing has ripple effects
Oh, yeah.
on every part of your life.
It really does.
It's not just this one little thing.
No.
It affects everything.
The talk mentions finding clarity.
Okay.
When we make space for reflection.
Okay.
It's like all that noise from the world just fades away.
Yeah.
And you can actually hear your own inner wisdom.
It's like finding your center in this crazy storm.
Exact.
That's a good way to put it.
And then there's more.
Oh, there's more.
It also talks about how stillness can actually help us be more compassionate.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Well, you know, when we're constantly rushing around,
Yeah.
our empathy muscles get tired, right?
Yeah, we're just
on.
Yeah.
But when we're still,
Right.
we can actually tap into this deeper well of understanding for ourselves and for other people.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
You can't give what you don't have.
Right.
So it's almost like stillness is this way of refilling the cup.
Yeah, it's a selfless act. Really. Taking care of our own inner state
Okay.
allows us to show up more fully for the people around us.
I like that. And yet it feels so counterintuitive in this, like, go, go, go world.
Right?
Because the talk also mentions stillness,
Yeah.
leading to greater rest and strength.
Yes.
Isn't that kind of a paradox?
It does seem counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It does.
We think we need to work harder, push harder to achieve more.
Yeah.
But what if slowing down was actually the key?
I'm listening.
Think about it. If we're always on, we burn through energy so fast.
Of course.
Physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
It's like running a marathon with no breaks.
You're going to crash.
Exactly. But intentionally creating space for stillness,
Yeah.
it's like recharging.
Okay.
We tap into a strength that goes beyond our own limited reserves. It's about aligning with a different rhythm, drawing on a power beyond ourselves.
Working smarter, not harder.
There you go.
I like it.
That's the empowering part.
Okay.
It's not about being lazy or unproductive.
Right.
It's about tapping into a source of energy that allows us to live with more purpose,
Okay.
meaning, and even joy.
So it's not about withdrawing from the world.
Right.
It's almost like you're engaging with more intention,
Exactly.
but from this place of centeredness.
Yeah. It's a beautiful paradox, isn't it?
It is.
The idea that by slowing down, we can actually achieve more
Yeah.
in our spiritual lives, our everyday lives.
Right. And there's that saying, nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished. It's like it all gets done.
Exactly.
So after this deep dive, what's like the one thing
Yeah.
that you want listeners to take to heart?
I would say experiment with this idea that stillness can actually accelerate your growth, your connection to something greater than yourself.
Okay.
What if it could unlock this level of peace, clarity, and purpose you never thought possible?
So it's like an invitation almost. to try it out.
Yeah, try it out.
Give me some examples.
It could be as simple as starting your day with a few minutes of quiet reflection
Okay.
instead of immediately grabbing your phone.
Or maybe even just setting aside like a dedicated time each day
Right.
for prayer or scripture study or just being in nature.
Whatever works for you.
Really being present in those moments.
Yeah, find that one practice that really helps you tap into that inner stillness, that peace that goes beyond the chaos.
So it's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's interesting because the more we cultivate that stillness, the more it can really impact every area of life.
That's what I was going to say.
It's not just about,
Right.
our religious rituals.
Well,
It's about,
that changes everything.
yeah, it's about transforming our entire approach to living.
And I love that the talk closes with this really beautiful promise.
Okay.
This idea that this journey towards stillness,
Yeah.
we don't have to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about this invitation to draw near to God
Yes.
and the promise that if we seek that connection with our whole hearts, we will find it.
We'll find it, and it's so reassuring, right? Because it's not about being perfect at this.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some impossible state of perfect stillness.
Right.
It's about trying. It's about making that effort.
It's about being intentional, as we were talking about.
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there who are feeling that pull
Yeah.
of the busy trap, that feeling of being pulled in a million directions.
In a million different directions.
What's the most important thing you want them to take away from this?
I would say, what if slowing down was actually the key to accelerating our spiritual growth?
Yeah.
What if embracing stillness unlocked a level of peace and clarity and purpose you never thought possible?
That's good.
I challenge you, try it out.
Yeah.
Choose one practice, one small change, and commit to it for a week.
Okay.
See what happens.
I love that. And you know what?
What's that?
It doesn't have to be this monumental thing.
It doesn't.
It can just be a small shift.
Exactly.
Like we were saying, maybe it's 5 minutes in the morning instead of scrolling.
Right.
You spend 5 minutes just being quiet.
Or being out in nature or
Yeah.
whatever brings you that peace.
And you just approach those moments with intention.
With intention.
You might be surprised by what you find.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive.
It went fast.
It did. But this has been a great conversation.
It has.
Really appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, happy seeking, everyone.